Chapter 17, The Beginning of Perestroika. At the very beginning of Perestroika, when the first law on cooperatives in the USSR was enacted, many saw it as a call to action, and a lot of young people, as well as many not so young, but invariably full of energy and desire to really do something for themselves and their country, literally threw themselves into the fray, and immediately found themselves surrounded by a hostile, pestering crowd. "Down with them," the crowd shouted. I don't know how to pronounce this word. Burgios? Burgius? Smartasses? What did we fight for anyway? And even though many of Russia's pioneer entrepreneurs ended up working round the clock, pouring in a colossal amount of energy, not to mention their unique wit and inventiveness, hardly any of their efforts met with so much as a thank you. The modicum of support they required was usually provided only by intercommunication and interaction with each other. Then a concept was born. It literally came out of thin air. The idea of creating a union of USSR cooperators. I was a part of the pilot group initiating the project, along with the well-known Russian entrepreneur Artem Tarasov. Footnote, Artyom Tarasov, a prominent Russian entrepreneur, one of the first Soviet cooperators, an engineer by profession. In 1898, he proclaimed himself the first legal millionaire in the USSR, and the following year he was elected deputy of Russia's Supreme Soviet nominal parliament. He founded dozens of business ventures, including Russia's leading business newspaper, Kommersant, and Transaero Airline. After years of suppression by the state, Tarasov immigrated to London. In 2004, he published a book of memoirs entitled The Millionaire, exposing the corruption of Russia's ruling elite. End footnote. Most of us at the time were communists. At the first Entrepreneurs Congress, I was elected secretary of the Congress's party committee. I tried to explain to our overseer from the Communist Party Central Committee, Comrade Kolovsky, that it was incredibly difficult for entrepreneurs to work under such pestering. We needed first and foremost the party's moral support. But I soon realized that we were going to be facing hostility and pestering from a segment of the ordinary public as well as high and low-ranking officials for a long time to come. We could not look to the higher echelons of the Central Committee for any outward show of support, since they were afraid of losing popularity. Already their power was greatly diminished compared to the heyday of Soviet communism. An internal struggle had apparently begun and was now in full swing. In addition, entrepreneurs had begun to feel mounting pressure from a tax squeeze, and today, with maybe one or two exceptions, not a single business can keep afloat if it dutifully pays all the required taxes. Realizing this, many of them have managed to escape the tax squeeze by using all sorts of tricky loopholes. But in doing this, they have landed themselves in an even more precarious situation, being outside the law. Attempt after attempt to make officials on various levels see the absurdity of the prevailing tax system have not exactly been crowned with success. Indeed, they could not be, since the ones who initiated the system, and this is my own personal assumption, understand better than anyone else the impossibility of paying all the taxes. But this was exactly what they needed. Needed for what? Power, of course, for extortion. One false step, and you can be instantly ground to power, outlawed by tax police and inspectors. I felt sorry for the first entrepreneurs of Perestroika, as well as for Russia's current crop of businessmen. I decided to do for them whatever lay within my powers. I went to the League of Russian Cooperators and Entrepreneurs, originally headed by Vladimir Alexandrovich Tikhonov, footnote, academician of the Lenin Agricultural Academy and co-author of the innovative legislation on Russian cooperatives mentioned above, whom we had elected to the post in Perestroika's early days. The League's executive presidium still maintained a headquarters, but many of the offices were empty. Vladimir Alexandrovich had died a year and a half earlier. I was told that the chairman of the Russian Business Roundtable, Ivan Kivilidai, had been poisoned together with his secretary just 6 months ago. Footnote, Ivan Kivilidai, or whatever, an entrepreneur of Greek descent, at one time said to be the richest man in Russia. He was an outspoken advocate of political and economic reform. In 1993, he founded an influential Russian business roundtable to forward the interests of Russian entrepreneurial elite in the political arena. The poison which killed him and his secretary was delivered by a breath-activated substance placed in his office telephone receivers. Artem Tarasov had resigned from the League, and the organization's membership was only a shadow of its former self. Thanks to my acquaintance with one of the 3 remaining League executives, my request for space in one of the empty offices was granted, along with 2 telephones, a computer, and a fax machine. Since the League had no organizational funds available, I was pretty much on my own. To save time and hotel expenses, I used the office for my sleeping quarters as well. I was awakened every morning at 6 o'clock by the arrival of the cleaning lady, and the absence of a TV allowed me to work most evenings round up until about midnight. This sudden shift in living conditions, from a luxurious ship's cabin where anything I wanted to eat or drink was only a bell ring away, to a drab office not designed for living accommodation, in no way embarrassed me. In many respects, it actually afforded me greater opportunities to pursue my work. I spent my time thinking out and drafting a constitution for a fellowship of entrepreneurs, along with compiling letters of appeal. These I sent out by fax in the early hours of the morning when the communication lines weren't as busy. By hook or by crook, making use of both newspaper adverts and chance encounters, I gathered together a secretariat of various Moscow professionals who shared my enthusiasm for the project and realized its significance. The secretariat also included 3 Moscow University students. First, there came Anton Nikolikin, who had been called in to fix a broken computer. Later, after learning of our work on organizing the fellowship, he brought along 2 of his friends, Artem Semenov and Alexei Novichkov. They immediately began work on encoding the electronic version of the Golden Catalog of Russia, for which they were able to put together a highly professional computer program. Footnote, Golden Catalog of Russia, a reference to the fellowship's proposed directory of member enterprises.